In the world of sports, greatness often walks side by side with danger. And sometimes the boundary between triumph and tragedy is no thicker than a heartbeat. Our story begins in 1923, when Jack Trice, a young and determined defensive tackle for Iowa State, stepped onto the field for what should have been just another game. He was strong, disciplined, and ready to help lead his team to victory. But early in the match, a hard collision left him with a shoulder injury. Trice ignored the pain and continued playing, pushing himself through every snap. In the third quarter, he attempted a rolling block and fell onto his back. What happened next sealed his fate. Several Minnesota players ran directly over him, their cleats driving into his abdomen and chest. He struggled to stand, but his body was already failing. Team doctors on the sidelines saw the injured shoulder, but completely missed the catastrophic internal damage. After the game, Trice was cleared to travel. He lay on a straw mattress inside a shaking train car through the long night. No one realized he was dying. By the time the team returned to Ames, he was barely breathing. Internal bleeding spread beyond anything doctors could repair. On October 8th, 1923, Jack Trice passed away, only 2 days after giving everything he had on the field. Decades later, another rising athlete stepped into an arena of danger. Lane Frost, one of rodeo's brightest stars, entered Cheyenne Frontier Days in 1989, ready to face a powerful bull named Taking Care of Business. Frost delivered a masterful ride, scoring high and landing safely after the buzzer. But instead of retreating, the bull turned back toward him. With brutal speed, it drove its horn into Frost's back, lifting him off the ground and throwing him into the mud. Bullfighters rushed in, but Frost was already fading. He was transported to the hospital, where he died shortly after arrival from massive internal hemorrhaging. His final ride became one of the most haunting moments in rodeo history. In 2014, the cricket world would witness its own tragedy. Philip Hughes, a talented Australian batsman, stepped onto the pitch for what seemed like a routine match. The bowler delivered a sharp bouncer, rising higher than Hughes expected. The ball struck the unprotected area just below his helmet. One of the most vulnerable spots on the human body. Hughes collapsed instantly. Paramedics fought to revive him, but his vertebral artery had ruptured. Despite emergency surgery, the bleeding couldn't be stopped. 2 days later, just before his 26th birthday, Philip Hughes died. His accident led to sweeping changes in cricket helmet safety worldwide. On March 4th, 1990, another athlete at the peak of his power faced an unseen danger. Hank Gathers, one of college basketball's most dominant forces, thrived in a fast-paced offensive system that pushed both teams to exhaustion. Early in the game, he caught an alley-oop and delivered a spectacular dunk. As the crowd roared, Gathers turned to run back on defense, but his legs suddenly collapsed beneath him. He fell face first onto the court, motionless. Teammates thought he was joking, but when medical staff rushed in, they found his heart had stopped. Gathers suffered from hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a condition that thickens the heart muscle. Despite immediate CPR and emergency transport, he was pronounced dead less than an hour later. The game was never finished. Just 4 years later, motorsport would lose one of its greatest legends. On May 1st, 1994, Ayrton Senna climbed into his Formula One car at Imola for the San Marino Grand Prix. The weekend had already been overshadowed by crashes, injuries, and a fatal qualifying accident. Senna, deeply unsettled, had questioned whether the race should continue. But when the green lights came on, he led the field with his signature precision. On lap 7, at nearly 200 miles per hour, something went terribly wrong. Senna's car failed to turn into the Tamburello corner. It shot straight ahead, braking only slightly before crashing violently into a concrete wall. The right front suspension broke free and struck Senna's helmet with devastating force. Rescue teams worked frantically, but he never regained consciousness. At 6:40 p.m., the world lost one of its greatest drivers. Senna's death reshaped F1 safety standards forever. Boxing, too, has its share of unforgettable heartbreak. In 1962, welterweight champion Benny "Kid" Paret faced rival Emil Griffith in a highly anticipated third match. Their rivalry had grown bitter, and tensions peaked before the fight. As the bout entered the 12th round, Paret was exhausted. Griffith trapped him against the ropes and unleashed a brutal flurry of punches, more than 24 in just seconds. Parrot's head snapped back repeatedly, but the ropes held him upright as the barrage continued. When the referee finally intervened, Parrot collapsed unconscious. He was rushed to the hospital, but the damage was irreversible. After 10 days in a coma, Benny Kid Parrot died from a massive brain hemorrhage. His death prompted major reforms in boxing regulations and medical oversight. In 2010, the world witnessed a tragedy on ice. Georgian luger Nodar Kumaritashvili was preparing for his final training run before the Olympic opening ceremony. The Whistler Sliding Center was the fastest luge track ever built, and athletes had already voiced safety concerns. During his run, Nodar reached nearly 90 miles per hour. Exiting the final turn, he lost control. His sled struck the unpadded steel support beam beside the track with catastrophic force. Despite immediate medical attention, he did not survive. His death shook the Winter Games and sparked urgent discussions on track safety. In 2011, MotoGP fans watched in horror as Marco Simoncelli's race took a fatal turn. On lap 2 of the Malaysian Grand Prix, his rear tire slipped mid-corner. Simoncelli's bike slid directly across the racing line at full speed. Colin Edwards and Valentino Rossi, unable to avoid him, struck him at nearly 75 miles per hour. The impact tore off his helmet, and he suffered devastating head, neck, and chest trauma. The race was red flagged instantly, but Simoncelli passed away moments after reaching the medical center. Football would face its own tragedy in 2003. Midfielder Marc-Vivien Foé collapsed during a Confederations Cup match without any contact or warning. Medical teams rushed onto the pitch, but Foé never regained consciousness. The cause was hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, the same hidden heart condition that took Hank Gathers. His sudden death at age 28 stunned the football world. In 1999, professional wrestling endured one of its darkest nights. Owen Hart, performing as the Blue Blazer, was set to descend from the rafters during a dramatic entrance. A malfunction in the quick-release mechanism caused him to fall 78 feet into the ring. The impact was catastrophic, Despite immediate medical intervention, he died shortly after arriving at the hospital. His death led to sweeping changes in stunt procedures within WWE. NASCAR legend Dale Earnhardt met tragedy on the final lap of the 2001 Daytona 500. While protecting his teammates' lead, Earnhardt's car was clipped from behind, sending him into the wall at 155 miles per hour. The fatal injury, a basilar skull fracture, occurred instantly. His death transformed NASCAR safety forever, leading to the adoption of the Hans device and major car redesigns. Finally, the 1955 Le Mans disaster remains the deadliest accident in motorsport history. When Pierre Leveg's Mercedes was launched into the spectator area after a collision, the magnesium-bodied car exploded into flames. Debris flew into the crowd, and the resulting inferno killed more than 80 people and injured over 120. The tragedy forced racing organizations worldwide to rethink safety measures from the ground up.